Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Happy you're here. So, we're drawing cubes today. Grab your paper, grab your pencil. I got some old school paper here. This is just printer paper. And it doesn't matter if you're drawing with a number 2, 5B, 6B, doesn't matter. Or even a pen if you're feeling daring. The reason I'm going over this today is because drawing cubes, cones, cylinders, and spheres is probably one of the most overlooked aspects of drawing on this earth. Nobody wants to do it, and then everybody wonders why their perspective is bad when they start drawing all the cool stuff. I want you to be able to brag to your friends and family and significant other that you can draw a cube and they can't. So, how do you start it? First, sharpen your pencil. Probably seems rather straightforward, but you'd be surprised at how many people try to draw without a sharpened pencil and then their lines look pretty bad. Sharpen your pencil. Lighten your grip on your pencil. You don't want anything too harsh. You don't want to grab all the way at the tip unless you're putting in fine details to tune something or you're almost finished. Okay, so what I like doing when I do a cube is I'll hold it about halfway back like this, and then I'll just lightly move my hand. Now I like to guide my pencil strokes with my pinky so that when I turn my hand over, my palm is barely touching the surface. This allows me to really relax and draw with my shoulder, which is the next point. So I definitely suggest that if you're unable to stand, or your desk maybe isn't tall enough to where if you stand you don't have to hunch over to draw, then sit up straight in your chair, because you need to see the paper straight on as if you're looking directly down on it versus tilted to the side, which is a habit that a lot of people get into. So what I'm doing here is I'm drawing the very front corner and edge of the cube. Okay, so we don't need anything fancy right now. I want you to get used to the physical movement of creating that vertical line up and down. Now you can darken it a little bit, but when you darken this, remember, don't move your fingers up and down as your hand goes up and down. That's what screws everyone up when they try to draw straight lines. You lock the hand in place and you move your entire arm up and down. That will give you straight lines. You're probably wondering why you get banana shapes all the time and lines that bow. Now you can do this when you're fine tuning a line. So I already have this one showing up. Now I can kind of go back in with confident long strokes and darken it a little bit, so that way I still have something, somewhat of an attractive line. This is vertical. This is the very front edge of your cube. Now, we're going to do 2-point perspective. I'm not getting into too much of what perspective is as far as horizon lines and vanishing points. I'm assuming that you at least know that already. So what you're going to do is you're going to lightly grip your pencil. Now everybody holds their pencils differently. I like holding mine whenever I need a light gestural line like this, way back in the back, and I barely pinch it. It's very loose in my hand. So I want you to practice that along with me. Also, I want to give a disclaimer. This camera is angled slightly back. It's not pointed directly down. So I made sure to tilt the paper so that you can see the cube head on. All right, so the next step is to lightly put in the top edge of your cube. Notice how these strokes are going past the original vertical line. That's okay. My lesson today is about being comfortable with drawing the lines of a cube, not necessarily perfecting the edges yet. Okay, because if you build up the muscle memory on how to move these lines back and forth, fine-tuning them will come naturally. It'll come easier as you get better at drawing the lines. This line is going off into space on our right. It's going to a vanishing point that is not on the paper. I repeat, it is not on the paper. Why is that? If you squeeze the vanishing points on the paper when you're drawing a close-up of an object, it is unrealistic based on how humans view objects in real life. Look at all the objects that you have on your desk or sitting around you. Those vanishing points to each individual one are flowing way off into space, somewhere in the distance, not directly in front of you. So you don't want to force the perspective of a cube unless necessary. So this one's going back. Now, The next step is to go at the bottom of this original vertical line, and since we're so close to this cube because it's rather large and we're pretending that it's that big in real life, all the lines are going to be pretty much parallel, not converging severely to a vanishing point. So what I'm going to do is lightly hold my pencil again, and then I'm going to go at the bottom, and I'm going to draw another straight line, which is the bottom of the cube, and this line is going to slightly converge with this one. Okay, so there's diverging and converging. Converging means it will meet at a point somewhere in space. Diverging means it's opening up. You definitely do not want the edges of a cube opening up anywhere, or it's not a cube anymore. Okay, so notice how I'm exploring this line. I'm going past it. Okay, this is okay. Have fun with the roughness of these lines. After this, you're going to move to the right side and you're going to determine by yourself what's a rectangle and what's a square. Okay, because what happens is a lot of times when people draw cubes or 3D cubes, they will elongate the cube and it ends up being a rectangle. It's an honest mistake. Everybody does it. I've done it countless times. It just gets better with repetition. You know visually where to cut it off. So I'm going to draw another vertical line by comfortably moving my hand, and I'm locking my hand in, so I'm just going to draw with my shoulder. Once we have that, this is the first face of the cube. Okay, so you want to make sure that these are vertical. Okay, so I'm going to go back over this line to darken it a little bit, this line to darken a little bit, just so we can actually see it. Okay, so there's one, and we can even widen it just a little bit. And there are many ways to draw cubes. You'll see a lot of videos on YouTube where you'll have really fine-tuned cubes that are nicely drawn, 3D cubes. This is more gestural, so there's going to be no mechanical help. You don't get any straight edge. You don't get to use a ruler, the edge of anything. Okay, now the way I'm standing is I'm standing directly over the paper. If you're sitting down, make sure that you're sitting up, have good posture, so that you can view this directly in front of you versus tilting your head to the side as if you're writing something down. If you tilt it to the side, the next thing that I'm going to explain, you're going to see why it's necessary, and that is all verticals stay vertical. If you accidentally lean over to the side while drawing a cube, your vertical lines will end up tilting, so that when you try to draw through the cube, nothing lines up properly. All right, so let's go to the next step. All right, I'm going to go outside of the cube way out here, so my hand is out here. And I'm going to very lightly, at first, draw the opposite side. Now, another thing that I want to mention is that based on where this is sitting in space, this cube is sitting directly in front of me. So here I have some Post-its here. You know, if I split the Post-its directly in half, you're going to see equal distance from that corner to that corner. But if it's in the space over here, you're going to see less of this face and more of that face. So hopefully you at least understand why this is evenly, cut up. Okay, next step, you could do two things. You can either do the far edge of this, because it doesn't really matter how far up that you take the line because it's so lightly drawn. You can either do that one or you can do the top one. It's more comfortable for me just because I'm more used to it. I'm just going to do the vertical one on this side. And I'm not really caring about how far up I go because these lines are so light that when I connect the darker part, it'll actually look good. And really, I like putting little dots where the corners should be. It's just a good peace of mind for me. Some people don't like doing that, some people do. I like doing it just because it lets me know what I'm doing. Oh, the other thing that I want to mention, they're doing construction about 100 yards away from where I live, and you might hear some weird drilling. I can't filter that out. I don't know how to get rid of it, so we'll see how this goes. Anyway, I have that lightly drawn, and now what I can do is I can connect that top one. Here's the thing though. I've said it in multiple videos, make sure that's straight. I've said it in multiple videos that you want to move this thing. It's weird. I'm looking at this now through my camera. It looks like this is tilting, but it's actually straight when I'm looking at it. That's so weird. Okay, but anyway, it's probably just like fisheye. Let's see. Yeah, see? It's straight. And then when I turn it, it looks like it's going up a little bit. So just so you guys know, that is straight. Actually, I'm probably going to fix my camera, so just 1 second. Okay, I've readjusted my camera so it's a little better. Just so you know, I'm not cheating. It's the same drawing. I just had to move it over a little bit, and I think because of the way the camera is placed, it's going to look like the wall is caving in. So I just need to straighten that up as much. But anyway, that's my perfectionist in me talking. We got to connect this one. Okay, so we got to pay attention to what's happening to this bottom line of the cube. Okay, so if you're drawing along with me so far and your cube looks a little messy and scratchy, that's okay. That's how you're going to build the skills in drawing a cube that looks really, really good, because this is going to come more natural as time progresses. Okay, next step, let's connect them. So I might have to lengthen that other line up there too. Okay, so once I get that top edge of the cube, the other thing that I want to explain, I got to elongate that a little bit. Okay, the next thing that I want to explain is when you see your cube, you can take two pencils like this. So you put one up here on that edge, one up here, or one down here on this edge. Now, if they're converging, you're doing a good job. I want to turn it over here, and I'm going to turn this one over here. See if I can line those up. And it looks like those are converging also. Good job so far if that's the way it's happening for you. Now, you don't have to be perfect, okay? You're going to make mistakes. You're going to get a little frustrated. I want you to give yourself permission to screw up. It's totally fine. Okay, the next thing that I want to explain is when you're drawing a cube, there's only two possible points that any of the lines could possibly go to. Okay, not the vertical lines. Those stay vertical. I'm talking about the edges, the top and the bottom. They either go to the vanishing point on the right or the vanishing point on the left. That's literally it. So this top edge, I got to make sure that I'm looking directly over the cube so that I can view this as accurately as possible. And see how light that I drew that? Very gestural. That line and that line are going to the vanishing point on the right, and you can test it again. You take your pencils like this, or pens, whatever you're drawing with. Those are also converging. You can see that it's squeezing in on the right side. That's good. Now you want to go to the opposite side and make sure that this edge does the exact same thing with this one. Okay, so now, and I'm holding my pencil like this. This is how light I'm drawing this. Actually, I'm gonna need to hold it like this now because of the way my arm is tilted. But I'm gonna ghost in the movement very lightly, and I'm gonna draw, not caring about the exact points of the cube or the corners. I just want to get it to where the lines are intersecting. I can put a point there. That's good. So now you should get this really cool looking gesturally drawn cube, which is good. Okay, so let's test this now. Let's move this down a little bit so you can see. I'm going to take a pencil here. You're going to see I'm going to line it up right there. I'm going to take my second pencil and I'm going to line this up. You'll see the line that I'm about to line up, that edge right there. Now look what's happening. Oops, I turned it. I'll make sure it's right. These are converging too. Now remember what I said in the beginning. This cube, if it was sitting in front of us in real life, it's relatively close to us. So all of these converging lines are going to look parallel because the vanishing points are not in our line of sight. Okay, they're spread out among a far distance away from our paper. Okay, so let me get to the point where everybody starts messing up when they draw a cube, and that is drawing through the cube. Okay, that back corner is going to determine a lot about whether or not you're accurate. Okay, let me move that down so we can see it, and I'll explain here in a minute. Remember when I said that all of these lines going back and forth can only possibly go to 2 points? That's That's true. I'm going to go down here to this corner. It doesn't matter if you go over here or over here. You still have to draw through the cube. I'm going to make sure that I'm lightly drawing this. Now, if you look directly over your cube, you could be able to see the perspective very nicely. Okay, so make sure you get over there, and then when you're drawing these lines and you're going back and forth, you don't want to make them too thick. You want to stay relatively in the same spot. All right, so now we got some testing to do. We need 3 pencils, okay? So we got 1 pencil up here at the top. So if you're doing this along with me, just make sure that your lines are lightly drawn. We got pencil number 2 on the line that we just drew. And then we got pencil number 3 on one of the first ones that we drew. Now, look at that. All 3 are converging. That's good, because all of those lines are going to my right side. They're going to the vanishing point on our right. And we're going to test it again here in a second. Okay, we're going to move these pencils away. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing on this side. This is crucial, right what I'm about to tell you, because you're going to know if you're going to line your cube up correctly. Okay, so we're going to look at this line right here because it's going to the vanishing point on our left. This one, we want to make sure that it converges with that one too. Do this carefully. Hold your shoulder still, lock it in place, and draw it. Stop. Okay, moment of truth, and I'm going to tell you why. So, let's test it again. Let's put our pencil up here. Make sure it's straight. And we're going to do our brand new line. Make sure your pencil actually has a nice flat part on it so you can balance it. And look at that. That's what we want. Look at all 3. All 3, they're not opening up anywhere. All 3 are going to the same spot. If you have something that looks like this, that's wrong. That means you drew that back line incorrectly. If it looks like, let me see if I can show you another way that it's not right. If this one goes up and opens up, then that's not good. So you want to make sure that they all slightly converge into the distance. Okay, remember what I said about the moment of truth? Here it is. If you do this correctly, let's put a dot right here where they intersect in the very back. It's like Superman, we're looking through the object. If this back corner, and you do a vertical line, go straight down. If it lines up with that point, you did it correctly. And there we go. Do it lightly because that's behind us. Now what happens is sometimes this back corner that we physically can't see because we don't have x-ray vision, sometimes that's too high. And then you end up getting a cube that almost looks pinched on one end and fat on another end. Okay, so let's clean this cube up a little bit just by adding some nice finishing touches. Down here you would have what's called the contact shadow. Now this lesson isn't about shading yet. I'll give another lesson where I'm mapping the shadows correctly and then shading. But this one's just about drawing a cube. Down here I'm going to ghost in the dark line, the contact shadow, okay? And I'm moving my hand back and forth fluidly, and then I'm going to stop, okay? And then since this is already drawn, I don't have to worry about looking directly over it. I can just turn my paper and I can comfortably draw a straight line this way. I'm just going to connect those dots that I drew. Okay, so in later lessons when I give it and I explain what contact shadow is, it's when the object meets the ground or the floor that it's sitting on, and there's no direct light getting under there, so it's going to be the darkest. So when you drew these original lines, let me get that other pencil. When you drew these like original lines, especially this one in the front, this one would be the darkest anyway, because that's closest to us, it would get most attention. All right, so there you have it, folks. This is how you draw a cube like a boss, okay? Now, I'm gonna give you a little homework assignment, those of you that really wanna learn this. I want you to draw 50 of these. Okay, and at the end of 50, I want you to number all of them. At the end of 50, look at number 1 and look at number 50. You should see improvement. Okay, some of these are going to be a little wonky. Some of these you're probably going to want to crunch up your paper, burn it, throw it away, and give up on life. Please don't give up on drawing cubes. Okay, they're a lot of fun once you do it, especially you know, when I start getting into the later lessons like mapping the shadow, taking the 3D aspect away, well, the see-through aspect away, and then shading it and making it look really pretty. That's what we're ultimately going to get to. And then I'll get into cones, cylinders, and spheres and do the same thing with that. So if you enjoyed today's lesson, please give it a like and subscribe, comment below. Let me know if you're in foundations, if you're learning how to draw. We have a bustling community in our Discord. Check the links in the description. Our Creature Design Workshop Discord, and also I run a mentorship. Okay, if you're really serious about drawing, please email me at bobbyrebholz@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to discuss that. Look over your portfolio. I help with marketing, concept art, you name it. Thanks again for tuning in. Hopefully it turned out like this, then you can brag to everybody that you can draw a cube and they can't. All right. Until next time, peace.